What's up, world? Welcome to a special I Bleed Sports. As you know, I am the host, Brandon Janeau. And like always, all podcast platforms, BrandonJaneauShow, I Bleed Sports, all on all podcast platforms everywhere, social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, BrandonJaneauShow, and of course, YouTube channel, BrandonJaneauShow. Type in BrandonJaneauShow, I Bleed Sports, it should pop up. Uh, so let's get into it, man. Subscribe, hit the notifications, comment, everything, man. Shout out to everybody that's been following me. Appreciate the new followers. Let's get into it, man. So, like I said, tonight is a very special I Bleed Sports. This episode will tackle the NFC postseason. Um, just be talking about the NFL postseason, man. What's going on, the teams, and at the end of this, I will be giving my Super Bowl predictions and winner. But let's get into it, man. So before I get into it, the final teams here is the teams that made this. So week 18 was very intriguing to say the least. You had a lot of teams that had you know a lot of opportunities. Now in the AFC, it was pretty cut and dry, pretty much in the AFC. Very simple. Only a couple teams were left standing in the AFC after last week that could have made the playoffs. The Texans and the Colts, which played Saturday night. Winner was already in the playoffs. If you won, you were in. If you lost, you were out. And also still in the divisional race if you also won the game between the Colts and the Texans. The Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, were still in the playoff race. Um, very simple. Win. They had to win and then have either the Jags, the Bills, or the Colts and Texans to tie. And then you had um, the Bills, who at the time was sitting at the sixth position in the playoffs. It was very simple for them as well. Win and you're in. Either you're going to be the two seed, which was the AFC East divisional champions, or the the seven seed, depending on if Pittsburgh, um, yeah, Pittsburgh, if Pittsburgh would have won and got in. So they're playing either for the sixth, seventh, or second seed. When they played Miami this past Sunday, either you won the division or you were going to be on the road. Pretty much, that was pretty much what in total for the Buffalo Bills. For Miami, it's very simple. You were already in, but you had to play the Bills to either win the division, stay the two seed, or you would have ended up as the sixth seed, and you would have to go to Kansas City and play the Kansas City Chiefs, which led to the fourth seed, which was the Jags. The Jags lost. Then Pittsburgh would have been in. Buffalo would have also been in, and the Texans or the Colts would have won the AFC South, which means the Jacksonville Jaguars would have been out of the playoffs. Clearly, I know what has already happened. If you follow football, then you know what the hell has happened. The Jags lost to the Tennessee Titans. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night. The Texans beat the Colts also Saturday night. Uh, and the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins in Miami, which secured the Buffalo Bills another AFC champion, AFC's divisional crown, and the Miami Dolphins, the sixth seed in the AFC. So, what does that mean? Well, it means this. Let's start off with the team that doesn't have to play this weekend, and that is the number one seeded Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is 13-4 after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers Saturday night, which, of course, like I said, granted the Pittsburgh Steelers into the playoffs. Um, Baltimore is at home, sitting, watching the playoffs. Of course, if you know football, the lower seed, whoever wins. So let's say Kansas City wins, Buffalo wins, Houston or Cleveland, the winner of that game would automatically go to Baltimore the next week to play the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, number one seed in the AFC. Um, this is the healthiest Baltimore has been coming into the postseason. That is saying a fucking lot. Lamar Jackson is healthy. Odell Beckham is healthy. Rashad Bateman is healthy. Zay Flowers is there. Uh, Guts Edwards is still okay. Is healthy. Um, yeah, Baltimore is healthy. The offensive line is healthy. The only person that isn't healthy is Mark Andrews, and he may or may not play next week. That's crazy to say. Like this Baltimore team, when they are elite and when they're healthy and they're playing, is a scary fucking team. Let's be real. Like I said, 13-4. Lamar has probably won his second MVP in his career. There's a lot of things about Baltimore that screams possible Super Bowl champions. Um, the defense is stout. Lamar Jackson is playing out of his fucking mind. But it does become the conversation of all conversations. And I would talk about that when I talk about both of these teams at the end. But Baltimore is now sitting and waiting at home, like I said, for either. And this is the situation. This is very simple. If Kansas City, if Buffalo and Kansas City win, Buffalo Sunday, Kansas City Saturday, they cannot go to Baltimore. Houston, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Houston, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Miami, all could end up. Well, yeah, all could end up in the AFC. Could end up in Baltimore. Yeah. So Houston, Cleveland, because they're the 4 or 5. Pittsburgh, who's no Miami's the 6, and Pittsburgh is the 7. So after Kansas City and Buffalo, those are the only teams that can go to Baltimore and play Baltimore in a divisional round. Which leads me to this weekend. Browns, Texans. This is a rematch of Week 16. The Browns clearly won that game. Amari Cooper had like 200 some yards receiving. I think he had like 2 or 3 touchdowns in that game. I do not expect this game to be the exact same game it was in Week 16. Yes, the Browns more um, healthier. The Browns a little bit more, you know, aware of the situation. But the fact that Houston did not have CJ Stroud in that game, that's a massive difference. You go from Case Keenum to CJ Stroud. Yeah, the Browns defense, as great as they are, and they are great. I don't know what the Browns can do if CJ Stroud plays like he played last Saturday. Like I don't know what you can physically do. This is going to be a harder game that people really want to say, and this is why it's my game to watch. This is why it's my game of the week. I just did I Believe Sports. This is why it's the game of the week for me. This is the game of the wild card weekend to me personally because so many things could break either way. If Houston beats Cleveland, they go to Baltimore or Buffalo. That's a different type of conversation. And that there could be a very conversational moment. If CJ Stroud could beat the Browns, who is, let's be real, the second favorite in the AFC after the Baltimore Ravens. Let's be fucking real. They are the second favorite in the AFC. I know. Kansas City, Buffalo. Yeah. You can scream that shit. Let's be real. You really think that Kansas City or Buffalo can beat the Cleveland fucking Browns right now? Let's be real. No, they can't. But if Houston beats Cleveland, what the hell does that say about the Houston Texans? I'm not saying they get past Baltimore, But I'm not saying Baltimore just walks in and beats Houston fucking flat out. That's crazy. Which leads me to the Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. This game is gonna be so intriguing to see because I just don't see how Miami goes to Kansas City and beat Kansas City. But I also feel like I don't know how Kansas City scores points against the Miami Dolphins. Like like I said, I just did I believe sports. And one of these games this week is Rams Lions. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit. Tariq Hill returns to Kansas City. And unlike the Germany game where Miami could have came back, should have probably came back in that game, I don't think it's going to be the same game that it was when they played in Germany. I believe Miami, yes, even though it's going to be below freezing, I think if Miami could play, which sounds absolutely crazy for Miami, conservative football with the ball, not put Tua in positions where he's actually going to have to do more than he can. If they can find ways to help my Tua out offensively, that I think Miami's defense can at least stop them, and that's saying a lot because no Jalen Phillips, no Bradley Chubb, no Xavier Howard. And that's saying a lot. Miami's not great on the road, especially when you now are in freezing fucking temperatures. But this is a game that I'm not 100% like. Kansas City just walks through fire and Kansas City just dominates them. I don't know what Kansas City's getting this fucking offense from. I don't know if anybody's watched Kansas City this season. Their receivers can't catch the fucking football. That's a real thing. Even in the last game, and I know they rest people, to only scored, what, 12, 13 points? I guess. I guess. Like, I guess. Like, that is the Kansas City team. Like, that. I don't know what this offense looks like when it's all said and done because this is going to be interesting. But if this was in Miami, I probably would take Miami. But it's in Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City blows out Miami. And if they do, they will not do that shit the following week. Bet money on it. Which brings me to the Steelers versus the Bills. This is going to be a complete and utter ass whooping. I don't think it's the Steelers. I'm so happy for Mike Tomlin that he got in the playoffs. I truly don't understand people's logic when they say that fire Mike Tomlin. You sound absolutely stupid when you say fire Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh fans, because I bet money there are what 32 teams in the NFL. There might be like 4 teams in the NFL that might not want, that might not need a head coach. There's at least 10 of them that probably don't need a head coach, but they'll look at Mike Tomlin and be like, I don't know, we could probably upgrade. We could probably upgrade. I don't get the Steelers. I don't get the Steelers fan base. I don't get the Steelers at all. But I do think the Steelers are not going to win this game. I think that the Buffalo Bills have enough. But here's the craziness: is Josh Allen is turnover prone. He will throw the ball to any and everybody if you open. So do I think the Steelers can really beat the damn Buffalo Bills? Fuck no. But it is any given Sunday, which means anything can happen. And for that alone, I would keep my eye out on this game. Because I am not like everybody else. I think the Bills easily win this game, but at the same time, it is any given Sunday, and the Steelers with Mike Tomlin will fight. This isn't going to just be one easy ass whoop their ass and walk out. That ain't that type of game. I think it's going to be a real interesting game. So with that being said, the NFC. Now, like I said, the AFC had a lot of teams That's the teams that depending on this, depending on that. Very simple. The NFC was very loaded as well at the end of the week, at the end of the season. A couple of teams still vying for playoff positioning. Teams still that had a chance to make the playoffs was the Saints, the Vikings, the Falcons, Seahawks, and the Green Bay Packers. Now, um, uh, Atlanta had the longest odds, which was very simple. Win, beat the Saints, beat the Saints, Green Bay, Seattle, and the Minnesota Vikings all had to lose, but Atlanta had to win. That was the longest goddamn odds. Or beat the Saints and Tampa lost, and you were in as the divisional champs. The second longest odds for the playoffs for the NFC was the Vikings. Um, they situation was this: win. That situation was this: win, win against the Detroit Lions, win against the Detroit Lions, then Seattle, Green Bay, and New Orleans all had to lose for you to make the playoffs. Then after them, it was the New Orleans Saints. Saints was this. Their scenario was this: win, Tampa Bay lose, and you went to an NFC South. Or the second scenario was win, Tampa Bay wins, but then the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks both lost, and you were in as the seventh seed. That is scenario. And then there was Seattle. Very simple. Win against the Cardinals. Green Bay lose against the Chicago Bears. And Green Bay is very simple. Just win. Win and you're in. Tampa Bay, like I said, also was still vying for division. And their situation was very hard. Very simple too. Just win, you win the division. But if you lost and the Saints won, or Atlanta won, you were out of the playoffs. And a couple teams still fighting for position. The Rams was very simple. Win, you are the sixth seed. You go to the three seed, which was Detroit. Detroit still had a chance to move up, but it had to help. They had Dallas and Philly both lost. Philly and Dallas both were still playing for the NFC East. Dallas is very simple. Win, you're in as the NFC East champions. If not, you lose. Dallas and Philadelphia wins. You are now the five seed. Clearly, you know how that went, as you know. Packers won. They were the seventh seed. Rams won, sixth seed. Philly lost, fifth seed. Dallas is the second seed. Tampa is the fourth seed because they won. Very simple. Boom, boom, boom. Like I just did with the AFC, I'm going to do it with the NFC. Before I get to the playoffs, San Francisco as the number one seed. San Francisco, number one seed. 12-5 finishing the season. Um, their path is very simple, just like Baltimore's. Two games at home, win them, you're in the Super Bowl. Um, San Francisco's in a really, really interesting situation. Um, because of how this team operates and plays. They should be able to win those two games, depending on how the playoffs shake out for them. But 12-5, uh, unlike Baltimore, they're not coming in super healthy. I mean, they got 2 weeks, so they can kind of get themselves under back under 100%. Christian McCaffrey got banged up before the end of the season. Um, they pretty much rest Trent Williams and you know and Debo and all them Sunday, so it makes sense. Um, San Francisco is a little bit different. This is gonna be a little bit more different than I think a lot of people want to give a talking to, at least a talking point to. But let's get into it. So the NFC playoffs start off with Dallas, Green Bay going to Dallas, 7-2, 7 versus 2. Um, this is an interesting game, I would say the least. I think the NFC have way more interesting games than the AFC this week, and this is one of the reasons. Green Bay can run the ball, and if Green Bay can control the ball, control the clock, keep Dak Prescott off the field with CeeDee Lamb, and Green Bay actually has a number one cornerback in Jameer Alexander, so they can kind of keep Dallas from getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Now, I don't know if they will, but they can find a way to keep the ball out of CeeDee Lamb's hands. But the secondary of Green Bay is prone to giving up big plays, so I would not be surprised if that happens too. The one weakness of Dallas defense is running the ball. Green Bay has Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. They can use their feet, and if they can move that off the defensive line of Dallas, it's gonna be a long fucking day for Dallas. It's gonna be a long day for Dallas. So this is gonna be an interesting game. It's gonna be a very interesting game. At least to the Sunday night game, which is the Rams versus Detroit. Like I just said with I Believe Sports, Rams, Detroit. Like I said with I Believe Sports, I just did I Believe Sports. People are really forgetting the fact that Jared Goff also got traded in this Matthew Stafford trade. Like, yes, Matthew Stafford is coming back home. That is true. But Jared Goff is also playing Sean McVay, the same man that told Jared Goff, pack your shit and get the fuck out of my city. That dude told him literally that you do not work in my offense. I need somebody that can actually throw the ball down the field, and you are not it. And ever since Jared Goff got traded, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You don't believe me? Go check the statistics. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. This is going to be an interesting game. Yes, Matthew Stafford is returning back to Detroit. That's one thing. But Detroit, this is the first home game for Detroit. What? In 31 years? 1993 was the last time they won a division. So 31 years, this would be the first time they've had a home game. That's crazy. That is absolutely fucking nuts. And the last game of the NFC playoff bracket for Wild Card Weekend is the Eagles versus the Bucks. And like I also just said on I Believe Sports, I don't know who's the upset team anymore. Yes, it should be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Eagles, it should be definitely an upset. We should definitely call it an upset. But the way Philly looks coming into the postseason, I would not be surprised if Tampa Bay was to beat the Philadelphia Eagles Monday. I would not be surprised. Philly looks absolutely fucking done. They look they look out of it. They look out of it, and I don't think they're getting out of it anytime soon. So the way it looks is this: I think the Cowboys win. I think Detroit wins, and I think Tampa wins. And if that is the case, then the Cowboys will play Detroit, who just played each other just recently in Week 17, who got screwed. Detroit got screwed in that game. And Tampa will go to San Francisco, who also played earlier this year. And San Francisco, I don't know about that for Tampa. That's gonna be the end of the road for Tampa Bay in that game. Like I said, with the AFC, the same. Chiefs, Bills. I think the Texans beat the Ravens. I mean, the Texans beat the Browns. which means the Ravens Texans. That's a rematch from Week 1. Bills Chiefs. That's a rematch from Week 15, 16. I can't remember. So yeah, I think every team in the playoffs has a punching chance. I'm not about to sit here and say that it's just two team race. I know a lot of people would love to sit here and say that it's just a two teams race, but it's not. You gotta be very be aware of what the hell the situation is. I think that I think that both teams, 49ers and the Ravens, which lead me to earlier when I said the rest versus Russ conversation. I think this applies more to the 49ers than it does the Ravens. And I know people sit there and think I'm crazy for saying that. Despite on who comes to the 49ers. Because I feel like with the Ravens, if it's the Browns, they already know it's a divisional game. It's going to be hard hitting. If it's the Texans, fuck, let's get it going. But for the 49ers, they have all of the pieces in place to win and walk through. So they could come out the first quarter, first half, very fucking sluggish. Especially if it's Tampa Bay they're playing. And they could get caught. Russ versus Russ is going to be a very interesting and intriguing situation because of how both of these teams are going to have to react to this. The question that everybody really does have in their heads is who will make the play? Who is going to make the Super Bowl out of these two teams? If both of these teams make the Super Bowl, then great. But if they don't, who would you choose to really make the Super Bowl? And for me, it's the Ravens. I think the Ravens can make the Super Bowl. Yes, even in that crazy ass topsy turvy AFC, I think they can still make the Super Bowl. Why do I not think the San Francisco 49ers can? Because I feel like if San Francisco's in a game where they actually have to battle to come back in games, Brock Purdy is just not that guy. I would take Lamar Jackson, who is a two-time MVP possibly. A man has been in the playoffs way more times and has, to everybody's credit, yes, you're right. He hasn't proved it in the playoffs yet, but this is the healthiest he's been. That offensive line is good. The offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens have figured out how to get this man more explosive, more elusive in situations. With that being said, I don't know if the 49ers, if they're in certain tight games, they can win them, especially if they're down. So I think Baltimore makes the Super Bowl more than I think the San Francisco 49ers can. Do I think there's an upset between the Rams and the 49ers, the Ravens and the 49ers? I wouldn't say an upset, but depending on who plays the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, if it's the Browns, I think the Browns can get the Ravens. It's a divisional game, like I said. If they play in the AFC Championship game, it's a way different conversation. More hard pressure. Joe Flacco going back to Baltimore. On top of that, not just being a divisional rivalry. The Baltimore Ravens exist because they moved the team from Cleveland to fucking Baltimore. It's a lot that goes into this rivalry than just the Browns getting like the Browns going to the AFC Championship game. The Browns, the Ravens are the former Browns. Like that's a very important thing, man. And if the Browns could, I don't know, somehow, some way get back to the Super Bowl by going through the Ravens, oh, that shit would be great for them. For the 49ers, it's very simple. Just don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. Don't screw up anything that you do. Now, I will say this: if the 49ers have to play the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game, I think Detroit gets them. I think Detroit gets them. And I say this because Detroit can run the ball, which means they don't have to, particularly, Detroit doesn't have to particularly worry about, doesn't have to particularly worry about um, the pass rush of the 49ers. And Detroit the last couple of weeks have kind of gotten their own pass rush going. Aiden Hutchinson has been going crazy the last couple of weeks of second a quarterback. And I think with that 49ers offensive line, outside of Trent Williams, we have seen is very fucking shaky. They are not great at protecting the goddamn running the quarterback. We have seen, like I said, since Trent Williams. And I don't know if the 49ers have enough to stop this, man. At the end of the day, this playoffs is going to be pretty damn intriguing. Now, go into the divisional round, which means, like I said, Texans, Ravens, Chiefs, Buffalo. I got Buffalo beating the Chiefs. It's going to be in Buffalo. It's not going to be in Kansas City. First playoff game for Patrick Mahomes on the road. I just don't see it. Kansas City offensive line is not great, and the receiving course sucks. It's not a good situation to go on the road against Buffalo. Now, yes, can Buffalo fuck this up? Of course they can. I'm not going to sit up here and act like they couldn't, but they can. But I don't think they will. Which means Buffalo goes to the AFC Championship game. Which means if it has it my way, which means Baltimore will play the Houston Texans, and I think Baltimore gets the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud has somewhat of a struggling game, like Michael Penix Jr. did last night, where he can't do everything, and you're gonna see that immediately. Which will set up the AFC Championship game being the Ravens versus the Bills. Now for the NFC, I think San Francisco beats Tampa pretty easy, pretty convincingly. And I think Detroit gets Dallas. I think Detroit goes in with a fury, and they knock Dallas' ass out in fast. I don't think Dallas has enough. Like I said, CeeDee Lamb is one thing, but Dallas has no offensive line, and Dallas has no running game. That's a problem. It's a massive fucking problem. So my conference championship games will be Buffalo versus the Ravens, 49ers versus Detroit. I got the Ravens winning the AFC Championship game. I got the Ravens going back to the Super Bowl. Lamar finally proving to everybody that he is that dude. And I got Detroit beating the 49ers. I know a lot of people be like, that is crazy to say, but I got the Detroit Lions beating the 49ers. I just feel like Detroit will absolutely beat the 49ers. I think they beat them, man. I think they beat them. And yeah, I think they beat them, man. So the Super Bowl for me would be the Lions versus the Ravens. And I think the Ravens get Detroit. I think they do, man. But Detroit just making it to the Super Bowl would be crazy into its own self. But yeah, I think the Ravens in Detroit will be the Super Bowl, and I think the Ravens get it. Yeah. But that is my NFL preseason prediction show. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And hope you guys enjoy the postseason, man. I will. I damn sure will. Saturday, it kicks off with a wild card weekend. 6 games, 3 channels. Enjoy. Well, also a streaming service, so enjoy. I am BrandonJaneau. This is I Sports. Peace.